All right, let's jump into this deep dive. Here's something I think about a lot, maybe you do too, is your data pipeline, like growing way faster than your team's actual cloud skills.
Yeah.
Sort of that hidden issue, the thing you don't really notice until, bam, the costs are through the roof, or performance just grinds to a halt, or worse, things just break. And lots of us, we rely on Matillion, right? Because it's powerful, it's visual, it's cloud native. Makes sense.
It does make sense, and that's exactly why we need to talk about this. Matillion is absolutely great for getting started, building those first data jobs. That drag and drop interface is fantastic. But the real smarts, the intelligence you need when things scale, that goes way beyond just clicking and dragging. As you get more data, more complex workflows, just knowing Matillion itself, well, it isn't quite enough. You need that deep, really specific cloud expertise. It's critical.
Right, that's the core of it.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at Matillion's visual side and think, okay, this simplifies things. Maybe I don't need to be a cloud guru. Is that like a common trap?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. What does it really mean to scale Matillion well, beyond just, handling more terabytes?
That's a great question. And yeah, it is a super common misconception. Scaling Matillion, it's definitely not just about processing bigger data sets. It's really about tuning the whole system, running way more jobs at the same time, managing these really complex pipelines where everything depends on everything else.
Yeah.
And crucially, getting those underlying cloud compute and storage resources just right. It's about building smarter, faster, more efficiently, not just bigger.
Smarter. Yeah, I like that. Optimizing the whole environment. And that's where the cloud platform itself, whether you're using AWS, Azure, GCP, that's where it gets really critical.
Exactly. That's where let's say, the scaling magic, or sometimes the scaling mess, really happens. And look, this isn't just generic cloud stuff. For Matillion, you need some very specific knowledge, like right-sizing instances. Okay, that sounds simple. But with Matillion, you're often running these intense CPU-heavy transformation bursts. If you just pick a standard cloud instance when maybe a compute-optimized one would nail that Matillion job perfectly, well, you might be paying for idle capacity. Or worse, you hit bottlenecks. That 20-minute job suddenly takes an hour. Everything downstream gets delayed. And then there's tuning your data warehouse, like Snowflake or Redshift, optimizing network paths, locking down security with proper IAM roles, managing costs before they explode. If you don't have that deep understanding, you're basically asking for performance issues, security holes, and honestly, a really expensive learning process.
An expensive learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear that phrase a lot. Can you maybe give us an example? Like, what's a common costly mistake you see teams make when scaling Matillion without that cloud know-how?
Oh, definitely. Let's make it concrete. Imagine a team, let's call them quantum data. Their Matillion setup is humming along fine, but then they add a big new data source, scale up their Matillion jobs, but they completely forget to tweak their Redshift WLM settings, the workload management. So suddenly Matillion is throwing tons of concurrent queries at Redshift, but Redshift isn't configured for that load. It's like a traffic jam. Jobs slow right down, maybe even fail. And meanwhile, you're paying for compute that's just sitting there waiting. Deadlines get missed. Or maybe they didn't quite understand how Snowflake's auto-suspend interacts with Matillion's long-running sessions during a big load. So Snowflake suspends mid-job, Matillion job fails, has to restart. You get delays, plus you pay double or triple the compute costs for the failed attempts. Little things like that can inflate bills massively. Or, pipelines just breaking because someone scaled up resources but didn't update the IAM permissions correctly. Suddenly, Matillion can't access the data it needs, or maybe worse, it gets access it shouldn't have.
Wow. Yeah, those aren't just minor tech glitches. Those have real business impact. Delays, cost overruns. I can picture the panic trying to fix that reactively.
Exactly right. And that's the huge difference. Teams that get the cloud aspect alongside Matillion, they think about this stuff up front. They design pipelines anticipating these kinds of interactions. They build in fault tolerance, security, cost optimization from the very beginning. They see the whole picture Matillion and the cloud it runs on. They understand every click in Matillion translates to cloud resource use. Without that insight, it's like, having a race car but never taking it out of second gear. Or maybe driving it into a wall because you didn't check the brakes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for you listening right now, as a professional, developing these deeper cloud skills, it really changes your role, doesn't it? You go from being maybe a builder, someone who connects the dots in Matillion, to being more of an architect. You become that strategic voice who can design the whole data platform to be scalable, reliable, efficient. That's incredibly valuable. Makes you indispensable, really.
Absolutely. Scaling Matillion effectively is just not only a technical task, it's really a strategic one. It hits the bottom line, and frankly, it shapes your career path too.
So Thinking about all this,
Hmm?
what does it mean for you? How do you make sure you're not just building bigger pipelines, but actually building smarter ones? How are you leading wisely in this whole data landscape? Maybe take a moment to think. Are you just looking at the data volume, or are you really understanding and managing that hidden cloud configuration debt in your own setup?